You know the show Inside Out, where you have that control center in your mind, and then you have
With
all
like
the different
joy,
emotions.
sadness, and anger.
Yeah. So when anger comes up to take control, right? And that's the one that you want to kind of like
Dial back a little bit. Hey, it's the Ask Work It segment of the podcast. If you have a question that you're struggling with in the workplace and you don't know who to turn to, maybe write into us and we can help you talk your problems away. Today, Gerald, we have an AMA that comes from Kenneth, and he asks, when should I reveal my true feelings at work, and when will it be good to suppress them? Are you the kind to suppress your own emotions in the workplace, or are you always your 100% true self?
There are good days and bad days.
Okay.
There are good days and bad days. And I think some days you feel like you just need to let it out, right? You
yeah.
need to let it out. But I think for me, there are times that after I let it out, I do regret a little bit
Yeah.
because, I start to think about how I'm being perceived, right? But how about you?
I used to be a little bit too much, let's call it. Yeah, as some of my employers have called it. Like, I have been told on several occasions to just chill and remember to be professional. So maybe in the same boat, there are good days and bad days.
Yeah.
But yeah, to Kenneth's question, how do you know when's a good time to let all your emotions run free?
It's really a balance. We are humans. We do have emotions. And I think it's sometimes good that we show our emotions as well, so that people know how we feel. And that makes us build up the trust within the team. You're not just like a poker face, everything's okay, but nobody really knows what you think, you see. So I think emotions is a healthy part of every workplace, but at the same time, workplaces are shared,
Right.
so you have to also be mindful of how our emotions make others feel, and sometimes that's where it gets a little bit tricky.
I mean, I can imagine also, if a colleague that you're working with is doing something frustrating, you don't want to just shout in their face and say like, get it together.
I did have that personal experience of having to pull someone into the office and give the person a kind of a scolding.
Okay.
And I think thinking back, right, like, was it warranted? I think I had a lot of reason to do it, but maybe the way I did it, if I think back, maybe I could have tried a slightly different approach.
Right.
And this is the tricky part here. Things are always better on hindsight. On hindsight or what should we have done. One helpful thing that I usually think about is now, the show Inside Out, where you have that control center in your mind, and then you have
With
all
like
the different
joy,
emotions.
sadness, and anger.
Yeah. So when anger comes up to take control, right, and that's the one that you want to kind of like
dial back a little bit.
dial back, or maybe even after the explosion, quickly recover.
Yeah.
Going back to my example, what I did right after that was I apologized. Even though it was I had to do what I had to do, but I think the way I could have done it was different. I had to apologize for the approach that I did.
Right. No, when I first became a manager, right, I was usually very level-headed, very unemotional in my decision making and when I was giving feedback to some of my direct reports. But I realized when I did break character, when I had to maybe up the volume, up the intensity of what I was saying a little bit, the point really got across to the people I was speaking to. And in some cases, that actually fixed things faster than if I were to, just tell them very flatly.
It's interesting you said that, because I do hear this a lot from managers. They sometimes will tell me that I have to tell my employees straight to the face.
Yeah.
Directly, because, telling them like in a different direction, indirectly, right, they don't get it. It's only when I tell it to their face, and then sometimes maybe with a very firm tone, then they get it. They start to realize that, okay, my boss is not mucking around, this is serious. So, and that's where emotions come in really handy.
As
right?
an emphasis.
As an emphasis.
Yeah.
It's an emphasis. And I think we want to also be viewed as a whole person. Don't view me just for that episode of me being firm, but look at me like how I have been every day.
Right.
Right? I could be a really nice boss, but then if let's say I end up being a bit more firm on this, then for the employee, they have to start to step back and think like, okay, this is really serious. I have to also bring my A game into this. I have to take this very seriously. So I feel like there is that balance. But if every day you're like that,
yeah, then that's different. Because then you are basically creating a hostile environment, right?
Yeah. Nobody wants to come to you, and then you're known as like a very cold person, and it makes cooperation and collaboration a lot harder.
Right. Okay. So we have a few helpful tips here that I want to run through, and then maybe you let me know how realistic it is to go about doing things
Yeah.
this way every time an emotion is about to peek through your eyeballs, right? So first you ask yourself, what outcome am I hoping for?
Mm.
You give yourself some space before acting, especially when emotions are running high, maybe in tense situations. And then just remember that the workplace is a shared environment.
Mm.
So in a situation, right, do you think it's realistic that I have to think all these 3 steps before I respond to something?
I feel like if we have to always catch ourselves between who we want to be perceived as, who do we want to represent,
Mm,
and versus how we actually feel at the moment. And sometimes if we are not so sure of at that moment how it's going to be like, it's better to step away for a while.
right.
So like in a meeting, for example, where some things are happening, right? You could bite your tongue and sit through, and blackface, right? But you could just step aside, go out, head out, take a breather, and then come back again later on and then talk about the situation again. I think it is really helpful, because sometimes what happens is if we react on the spot, we have to deal with the service recovery of that
Yeah.
reaction, and then our reputation, the way we are perceived, right? People might think lesser of us.
Mm,
I don't know whether you feel like even when it comes to promotion, for example, some managers, I've heard them say like, oh, this person don't have the leadership quality. Then I say, what do you mean? And then they say, cannot take stress. They cannot they cannot handle tough situations because they're unable to control their emotion. I mean, maybe today for those of us who really aspire to climb or aspire to lead, right? This is perhaps one of that skills that you might have to manage. The self-regulation part of your emotions. How do you start to put how you really feel aside versus what the people there and the situation then really needs.
Thinking before speaking a lot more, it feels like I'm not being my most real and authentic self. And how much of that can I actually do in the workplace before I'm basically putting on a front
Yeah.
every single day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 p.m. It's not net. It's
Yeah.
net bracket at work.
Yes. So there's a spectrum.
Yeah.
We don't want to be like that robot. On the extreme, we want to show people that our emotion, we are actually emoting. It's just that we're not swinging drastically, but rather we are progressing slowly.
Right.
So you can see someone, let's say in a conversation, slowly getting heated,
Yeah.
and then that's where you know that okay, it's normal.
Right. When you see their face turning red. And
Yes. You don't have, and in a very tense situation, you don't have to still be a smiley self. You see, you can react accordingly in that spectrum, right? But it's just that when you go towards that point of no return, when you feel like you might lose control of your regulation, of us unable to self-regulate how you really feel and talk, even mind your words, that's where you need to step back,
Right.
because you might say something to hurt someone, or you might do something that you will regret.
Okay. So I've had some friends previously who had this tip, and they said every decision you make, put it through AI, and then let AI tell you how much you're overreacting.
Okay.
So do you think that is a smart way to go about things?
If there's no better way a person can manage, then if that's the only way they know how to, then use it. It's better than having no way, you see.
Right.
Yeah, but I feel that there are many other ways, of course. And this is how I feel like the more we engage in shared spaces, whether in our personal life or even in work, we understand how to read a room, we understand to read emotions, we understand what behavior is like, and we can self-adjust from there. I do feel like having to consult AI, personally for me, it's one way. But if it becomes the default and the only way to know how to regulate how I feel, how I should respond, then it makes us very dependent on the AI, isn't it?
Yeah, you become over-reliant, and then in real face-to-face situations, you don't know how to react.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the other important point here is this. So what even if we make a mistake?
Yeah.
So what even if we express our emotions and it turns out it backfires on us and it's bad, right? I feel that that itself has a learning point, because maybe it's a blind spot for us. We have been carrying this sort of reactions or difficulty in managing our own emotions for a long time. And when it comes out, someone comes and tell us like, okay, chill, you got to rein it in. Then you start to think about this as like, am I always like that?
Yeah.
And if I'm always like that, maybe I need some help. I need to talk about how I feel and why I feel certain ways. Get some therapy maybe. So it's another door towards becoming better. That's what I'm saying. I certainly hope that our listeners don't feel like we need to get it right all the time.
Yeah.
All right, whether we are all good, prim and proper, but sometimes when you emote, even if it turns out badly, it's okay.
Okay. Well, I feel like that's a pretty good place to end this on. Kenneth, if this helped you, let us know. If it didn't, maybe write into us more often, and then we'll see how we can help you out more. If, like Kenneth, you also have a workplace dilemma and you're dealing with frustrations in the workplace, write to us. We are at cnapodcast@mediacorp.com.sg. Also, if you've been listening to Work It for ages and you want more of us, just don't know where to look for us, we're now on LinkedIn. We have a newsletter called Level Up by Work It. So look for us there. Go and search into your search bar for Level Up by Work It. Here's some of our thoughts after the camera stopped rolling, after we're done recording. We'll continue the conversation over there.
I'm Gerald.
And I'm Nat. Remember, how you act is who you are.